Hey guys, what's up? In this episode of Lady K Sailing, we talk about men's hair care products. No, we don't. I'm just kidding. What do? We do some solo sailing. We crash into a dock. We grab a mooring ball alone, which is pretty scary. We talk about anchoring and anchoring applications you can get on your tablet. And we welcome a YouTube follower aboard who's going to help us out for a little while. He's never driven a sailboat, sailed a sailboat, or lived on a sailboat. So we're going to teach him all about the cruising life before he buys his own sailboat and sails off into the sunset. All right, boys, so day one is done. Cruising alone, everything was fine. A little bit of a storm. You know, we handled it, got the anchor down, got the boat secured, boarded up, battened down, and hid until the storm was over, and carried on. Made it to Daytona Beach as planned, and tomorrow to be St. Augustine as planned. And honestly, it's not as hard as I thought it would be. It's more lonely than I thought it would be, and that sort of comes in waves. I guess, you know, when you're fresh out of a breakup, you expect to feel sad and all that stuff. And at first I was okay. I was enjoying, you know, the sun and all that stuff, and the excitement of, you know, cruising by myself. But then sort of right after that rainstorm, I pulled the hook up, and a wave of like sadness hit me, and it was like, oh man, I'm alone, and like I had to experience this scary thing alone. And yeah, it's not that scary, and yeah, it's not that big of a deal that I could drive the boat by myself. Really, like, a lot of people have done a lot of really cool stuff, and I don't even remotely compare. But here I am, sitting in the anchorage, beautiful sunny day, Daytona Beach, Florida. Where else could I possibly be? Where else would I want to be? This is just bloody amazing. Like, you gotta see this, smell it, feel it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to do, and it's a beautiful thing to do by yourself. And yeah, I've only done one day and one passage, but I'm telling you, this is like a whole new feeling. So yeah. Okay, 6:30 in the morning. Just leaving Daytona Beach, going under this bridge that's not even built yet. It's like 3/4 of the way down, I guess. Pretty cool. I wonder if, like, on the way down here, how much of it was here. I don't remember. Anyway, it is 45 miles to St. Augustine, which is going to take like 9 hours. It's a long day to be sitting here steering, you know? Hey guys, so I haven't been filming a lot today because there's not been the right wind to sail at all. It's just been motoring all day, and most of it's been dead calm with no wind at all. But anyway, I'm just coming up to St. Augustine. It's in front of me here, but look at how beautiful this is. Like, this is just like that part of Florida where like nobody lives. It's just just epic, gorgeous. Just stunning, absolutely stunning. You feel like you're like just in the middle of nowhere. It's just wonderful. Anyway, so we're going to be pulling into St. Augustine. I'm going to grab a mooring ball there. So there's a couple new challenges that I got to figure out. So one of them is I'm gonna pull up to the fuel dock So I've run a line from the bow pleat down to sort of back here near this winch. And that way when I pull up to the dock, I can give it to the guy, because usually you have somebody else at the bow to jump off or grab a post or something, but this will be a challenge, especially with the tide too. The tide really rips through St. Augustine. So anyway, I can throw him that line, and then I'll do the stern line and get the back of the boat secured. So should work out okay, I hope. Approaching this dock was extremely difficult. In this shot, there's about 12 knots of wind on my stern that's going to push me into the dock. So I go past the dock a little ways and then turn up into the tide, which is running at about 3 or 4 knots. Putting the bow into the tide allows me much better control of the boat as I approach the dock. But the wind and the tide are so strong combined together that bad things kind of happen. Neutral. She's just at the bow right now. Hey guys, so I know you really like the how-to videos that I make, and we didn't have any real how-to in the last episode. I mean, I was a bit busy, pretty much just getting rained on in southern Florida. But anyway, we're going to do a how-to video right now, and we're going to do it on a pretty important subject, a pretty popular subject too. We're going to talk about anchoring. We're going to talk about anchors, chains, how to anchor alarms specifically, because you want a good anchor alarm so that you can sleep at night. So here we go, anchoring. A lot of different opinions. I can't comment on every single scenario, every single anchor, every single chain, or every single anchoring app you might have on your Android or iDevice. What I can comment on is how anchoring is successfully done on Lady K. So, K has ridden the edge of a hurricane at anchor, and I mean 60 knot winds with gusts much higher for 2 days straight. And I'm sure you've been in 60 knot winds and it's scary, but can you imagine 60 knot winds for 2 days straight, relentlessly beating you for 2 days? She rode at anchor for that. She didn't drag. She's anchored where the tide runs at 4 knots in either direction, and it keeps switching all day long, and she has to reset her own anchor unattended. A lot of times I'll go into town because I have things to do, and she'll sit there and she'll have to completely go 180 degrees the other way and reset her own anchor. So she's done that. She's ridden out countless storms, storm after storm, in the Bahamas, the US, and Canada. So Lady K knows a little bit about keeping herself hooked. Lady K is about 14,000 pounds, 35-foot sailboat. So she's actually rated for a 35-pound anchor. That's what all the anchor companies tell you you should buy with a boat this size and this weight. Now, when I got her, she came with 2 anchors. She came with a 35-pound CQR and a 33-pound Bruce, both of which meet Lady K's requirements. Good score. I knew I wanted something a bit bigger because I was going to go cruising, so I took to the internet to figure out which anchor I should keep, the Bruce or the CQR, as my stern anchor or my backup anchor. And pretty much the entirety of the internet told me the best thing to do with that CQR was to put it on the bow roller and slowly lower it into the water with no rode attached and let it sink. People hate CQRs. Not sure why, I never tried to use it, but that's what I did. I got rid of the CQR, I kept the Bruce. Now, with the Bruce as a stern anchor or a backup anchor, I started shopping for Lady K's new primary anchor. I knew I wanted something big and heavy for the cruising life. And when you start researching anchors, you'll quickly find these next generation anchors are pretty much what everybody recommends. Now, a few years ago, you had only a few choices. You had your Bruce, your CQR, your Fortress, your Delta, etc., etc. But now there's some new guys on the block with new technology. Namely Rockna and Mantis. Those are the ones you're going to hear about. There's a few others on the market that sort of had next generation spade anchors like the Rockna and the Mantis, but we're going to talk about the two main players. Now, Mantis has some good marketing. They've got good YouTube videos of like quads pulling anchors down beaches, and they sponsor a lot of sailing channels. That's a lot of stuff that would appeal to a younger sailor like myself. But in my research, I kind of got the impression, and this is just my feelings on it, that Rockna has been around a bit longer, a little bit more established, and I kind of feel like they have a little bit better design in the anchor. Again, just my opinion. Rockna is also a little more expensive, so you want to take that into account when you're actually planning out the expense of your ground tackle. Now, I'm sure Mantis is good. I have no objections to Mantis whatsoever. If you have one or you're going to buy one, that's fantastic. They actually offered Lady K a sponsorship when we were at the Annapolis Boat Show. I love Mantis. I love the owner of Mantis. He's a super cool dude. Lady K, however, is not sponsored by Mantis or Rockna or anyone else. Now, I don't pretend to know more than the next guy about anchoring. I don't have more miles than some folks. I'm not more salty than some folks. I'm not even as good looking as most folks. But I have never dragged, knock on wood. Been through a lot of weather, been in multiple countries in multiple conditions with multiple different bottom types, sand, mud, grass, what have you. And Lady K has never, ever, ever dragged. So, sort of think it qualifies me a little bit to talk about anchoring. Now, when I went and started anchor shopping, I know Lady K is rated for a 35-pound anchor, so I went to the Rockna website and I started looking at their anchors. There's two main models. There's the original Rockna, and that's the one you see everywhere with the roll bar, and then there's the Vulcan. And I thought the Vulcan's newer, it's probably better. But in my research, I found the difference is the Vulcan is actually designed specifically to fit on a smaller bow roller, most likely on a smaller power boat where the anchor has to go through a little hole up onto the bow roller to be stored when it's not in use. So I bought the original Rockna. Rated for a 35-pound, I went a size up, I bought the 55-pound. I added 100 feet of 5/16 chain. Chose 5/16 because that's what this boat's rated for, and it's what fit on my windlass when I had a windlass that worked. So 100 feet of that and 200 feet of 1-inch nylon. Now you want to get nylon for your anchor rode because it has some give to it, some stretch. And when it's all in use, that takes some of the shock load off of your entire ground tackle rig. So the boring stuff. Here's how we anchor Lady K, and I'll try to say this as quick as I can. So slowly enter an anchorage, and I have it written down, so I'm going to be reading from the screen. Don't make fun of me if I'm not looking at the camera. So slowly enter an anchorage. Take note of all the other boats in the anchorage, if there are some. What direction are they pulling on their anchors from? You're going to need to know that. Also, does their road go pretty much straight down and their boat's just sitting there? Or are they pulling on their road at a really steep angle? If they're pulling at a really steep angle, they don't have enough scope out. You don't want to anchor next to that boat. I also look for the boats with the jerry cans on deck, because that means it's a long-term cruiser and they've been some places. So more likely they know how to anchor quite well and they've been more experienced doing so. Try to anchor with those guys. You should already know the wind and tidal conditions for the rest of the evening that you'll be anchored and the next morning, and however long you're going to be anchored. You're going to need to know that because your boat's going to move in that wind, and you're going to need to know how much scope to put out. So pay attention to the weather. Now, motor around the anchorage very slowly with respect to all the other boats and find your spot. You need enough room away from all the other boats to swing according to whatever the weather is going to do for the next few days. And when you find your spot, bring your boat to a complete stop, point the bow into the tide or wind, whichever one is stronger. Again, look at those other boats, which way are they pointing? With the boat stopped, take note of the depth. Look at the depth sounder and then go up on deck and drop your anchor straight down until it hits bottom. As soon as it hits bottom, stop paying out chain or rode. Stop it with your hands, whatever you have to do. But don't lock it in. You want it to still be able to pull more chain out. Once it's straight up and down, let the wind or tide start backing your boat up. If the wind or tide don't move it, have somebody behind the helm, put it in reverse at idle speed, and let the boat roll backwards really, really slowly. And as it goes backwards, let it pull more chain out. Once you've got 40 or 50 feet of chain out, lock that in, and wait for the boat to take up the slack, and then the boat should sort of snap. I always call it snapping. It'll be falling off to one side, and all of a sudden it'll put the bow straight at the anchor and stop. That means you've got the anchor set, and that's the first time you're going to set it. And now you know you've got a little bit of holding there. Pay out another 20 or 30 feet of chain, and then have the helmsperson give it a little bit more throttle, 1500 RPM or so, in reverse. Let the boat take up the slack again, and she should actually really set and actually get a really solid hook in. Once you're done that, rev it up as high as you want, make sure it's not going to move, and then get off the throttle, put it in neutral, shut the engine down, and you're good for about 20 minutes. Take that 20 minutes and see what the boat does next. Look around, make sure you're not moving, see how she settles on the anchor. Once you're sure, set your scope. Go back up to the bow roller and set your 5 to 1 or your 7 to 1 based on the water depth, however much scope you think is going to be good for the weather. I usually use 5 to 1 everywhere we go, but if it's going to be a really big blow, I'll put out 7 to 1 just to be safe. Once the scope's set, throw this number on and you are done. Now, you bought a big anchor, you got it set right, you have enough scope out, lots of chain. The next step so that you can get a good night's sleep is going to be an anchor alarm. Now, there's a lot of them out there. I use one on an iPad. They have them for pretty much every tablet or every cell phone or any device like that, and most of them are free. I use one that's called Anchor with a little exclamation mark after it. You'll find that in the App Store or the Google Play Store or what have you. Alright, so here's the Anchor app, and you can see there's a little boat and a little anchor in the middle of the screen, and that's actually where we are on Lady K right now. We're in Georgia, right by St. Simon's Island, right at the opening to the ocean, and we actually do have the anchor down. So let's go ahead and pretend we just got here. We're going to zoom in right into the anchorage where we are. Alright, we're zoomed in right to where we are. You can see there's already a little black squiggly line under the boat and the anchor icon, and that's actually tracking the boat as it moves. And that squiggly line will change colors and it'll keep tracking all night while you sleep, and you'll be able to see what the boat did all night. But anyway, we just got here, we dropped the hook. Now, I happen to know my hook is due north of my boat. It's probably 15 meters or so in front of us. So I'm going to just put my finger on the little purple anchor, and I'm going to drag it due north. And you can see as I drag it around, in the bottom right corner, you can say it's placing the anchor at 30 meters, 25 meters. I know it's about 15, so I'm going to bring it about that close there. And then I'm going to let it go. So now it has set the anchor for me. And you can see in the bottom right corner there's a little anchor icon, and the anchor is in the lower position. If I click that little button, it'll put the anchor in the upward position, so it's not set. So let's push it. That sets the anchor down. Drag it out to 14, 15 meters, because that's about where it is. And then we get this red circle, and that's our alarm circle. So let's zoom in a little bit. So there's our boat moving around. We know where our anchor is, and our alarm circle is very big right now. I don't have that much scope out, so I'm going to grab the little dot on the right hand side of the red circle, and I can move it to however much scope I have out. So I'm probably sitting on about 100 feet of scope. So I'm going to set this at 30 meters as 100 feet. If you want to talk in feet, you can set this app into feet. So we're going to set it at about 30 meters because that's 100 feet. Maybe we'll give it a little tiny bit extra. And that's it. That's my drag circle. And I leave it like this. I'll plug this iPad in. I'll leave the screen on all night. And I'll just leave it like this for the rest of the night. And every once in a while, I'll take a peek at it. And when the tide changes, the little boat that's now south of the anchor will go around to the north side of the anchor. And you'll see this little squiggly line moving around constantly, constantly, constantly to let you know what your boat has been doing. The only big thing about using an application like this, like an anchor application, is you'll want to remember to shut it off before you leave the anchorage. Otherwise, you'll be motoring out of the anchorage happily and you'll hear it start going off, which is sort of annoying. I'll show you what that's like. Let's set this really, really tight circle. And we'll get this anchor alarm to go off. There. So that'll wake you up at night. Make the circle a little bigger so she stops. And that's it. That's how the anchor alarm app works. So hopefully it gets you a good night's sleep. Big anchor, big chain, reasonably good anchor alarm. All right, boys and girls, it's Sunday morning, 6:30 a.m. Little Florida sunrise coming up, and we are gonna get out of St. Augustine. We're gonna head for Georgia, or as close to Georgia as we can get, I guess. We're gonna just pull the outboard off the dinghy so she tows a little bit easier, and then head out. So I don't think you guys have officially met. This is RJ.
How y'all doing?
So RJ's joining us from Oklahoma. He wants to get a boat, so he offered to come and cruise so he can learn some of the cruising lifestyle stuff. So we're We're gonna teach him everything he needs to know to drive this boat today. Hopefully. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. If you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you know that we had a little Lady K get-together down in St. Augustine about a week ago. I want to thank everybody who showed up. Absolutely amazing, the support, and for following the channel and coming out to show your support. That was really, really cool. I want to thank the A1A Bar across from the St. Augustine Municipal Marina for putting up with our shenanigans. And a big thank you to John and John. These guys have been friends of the Lady K Sailing YouTube channel for a really long time. And they picked us up at the marina, took RJ and I out to get groceries and provisions and stuff for the boat, and then they took us out for a night on the town. Just what a great couple of guys. Thank you guys so much. And a couple of new patrons. We've got Safit, David, Judy, Kirk, Marshall, and Kevin. I want to thank you guys so much for joining along on this journey. It means absolutely the world to me. And one last thing, my birthday's coming up, June 23rd. Lady K should be in Virginia, Maryland by then. It'd be really cool if we could have a get-together on or around June 23rd. That'd be really, really sweet. A great way to celebrate my birthday and to meet some of you guys. I can't think of a better way than to spend it with you guys from YouTube. So we will see you guys next week. Love you guys so much. Have a good week. One last thing, I almost forgot. Tell them bye, RJ.
See y'all later.
He's working on his own videos at RJ Salty Adventures. Follow him on Instagram. See you guys. Hey guys, sorry, 2 more things before I end the video. Oh man, this video is getting so long. I'm so sorry. There's just so much stuff going on and so much to say. A few people noticed in the last video that the Lady K theme song was not actually used at the beginning of the Lady K video. However, it was in this one, and I wanted to explain that. That song was written by Lee Resistant. So if you want to check out his stuff, check him out right here at this link. You can see what he makes and what he does, and he's a super cool dude. But when Candace left, he's a really good friend of Candace's, not of mine. And he wrote that song sort of for Candace and us when we went on this journey. So with her not being on the boat, it wasn't really right to use it in the video. But her and I are still on very, very good terms. Spoke to her, and she insists that that song still be on the videos. So yeah, I mean, huge thank you to Candace. I want to let you guys also know that she is doing very, very well. She's sort of like integrating back into the land life, and you can probably expect to see her making some YouTube videos pretty soon. That's it. Everybody's good. We'll see you guys later.